Happy Monday, fantasy football people. Nick Capozzi. This is Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. In case you didn't know, you can tell because my hat says, fantasy. It's pretty neato. So usually we have Jay Wrong join us on Mondays, but apparently he's on some sort of bender. It's the word on the street, at least at the Razzball bullpen. So pinch hitting. Oh, he's not a pinch hitter. This is like having Mike Trout come off the bench for you to pinch hit in the ninth. Why he wasn't starting, I don't know. Oh, maybe because the network refuses to air him with his hair. Just kidding. What's up, Sky?
What's up, my man? How's it going?
No hair product. Plus, you didn't shave. So really appreciate you prepping for the show.
Yeah. I did pop a zit on my nose, though, so you have that going for you.
Too much information, brother. So it was a really interesting fantasy football weekend.
Yeah.
Did you see that Marshawn Lynch interview?
No, I didn't. I only heard about it, but yeah, I think you're doing a damn fine impression from what everyone.
Yeah.
Oh.
If you missed it, go back and rewatch the interview. It was pretty funny because he got fined $100,000 2 weeks ago, or last week, I guess technically, for not refusing to speak to reporters post game. So I guess in his own little kind of protest, all he answered in his post game questions this week was yeah. So how was it defensive line to run against? Yeah. Marshawn. We'll get to him, though, when we talk Seahawks. But let's kick off with the Browns versus the Bungles. Oh, no, it's not the Bungles. They just play like Bungles. The Falcons get beat. Mike Smith has to be on the hot seat. Another time management issue. Mike, there's a chart for this. Okay? I haven't seen this kind of clock management since Romeo Crennel was a head coach.
The Browns coach isn't doing that much better either. He got the ball with 5 minutes left inside the 6, and he went first and goal throw. So, both of these teams tried to lose the game in the last 5 minutes themselves. Yeah, exactly. They're all about that action, boss.
All right, the big story was Josh Gordon was back, and I didn't know what to expect. Last year when he came back from the suspension, had 19 targets. I believe he had 16 last year, 8 for 120. I think the key takeaway, though, well, obviously you're starting him the rest of the season, but the key takeaway for me was how he really opened up the running game for Isaiah Crowell and Terrence West. Now, I've been stumping my man Isaiah for weeks, and he delivered 12 for 88, 2 touchdowns. Terrence West wasn't bad, 14 for 62, but I think Crowell, who's still available in a boatload of leagues. Why don't you listen to me, people? Listen. He's awesome. So Terrence West, still going to be in the mix, obviously, and at the end of the day, he might get the majority of the carries, but, in the red zone, it's all Isaiah Crowell. How good is Isaiah Crowell, in your humble opinion? And you're usually quite humble.
Yeah, extremely humble.
Yeah.
Isaiah Crowell, I got to watch a lot of his runs, especially those 2 touchdown runs. There's a little bit of Lynch action going on there. And if that's a superlative that gets you interested, minus the media out there, he was amazing to watch. The kid is, I don't know, those 2 touchdown runs. If anyone goes and queues those up, you'll see why he should be starting over West and why he did. Why they're still splitting carries and why West got more touches. Well, again, back to how I described Patine, I still think he's figuring stuff out. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, if Isaiah Crowell is available in your league, pick him up. Come on. Or just, send me all your information and I'll do it for you. Your login info, your password, your credit card info. I got it covered. Don't worry about it. The only thing on the Atlanta side was they're terrible. And Steven Jackson, 13 for 34. Why isn't Devontae Freeman given an opportunity here, Sky?
Well, let's see. His name is Mike Smith, and he's as boring as his name. So there's really not much else going on in Atlanta other than a coach who clearly has no huevos in terms of he won't go for it on 4th and 1 at any time in the game. He'd punt with 50 seconds left if it was 4th and 1 on the 40. So he's just one of those guys.
You just offended the 42,326 Mike Smiths in the United States, brother.
Hi, Mike.
All right, Eagles beat up on the Titans, but no thanks to Mark Sanchez, who stinks. So I think what we saw here yesterday with LaShawn McCoy going 21 for 130 and a touchdown Is that because Mark Sanchez stinks? You got to pull back on those wide receivers and hopefully bump up McCoy. Is this a sign of things to come for him? Because right now, technically in Yahoo scoring, he's behind Justin Forsett, Jeremy Hill, and Lamar Miller.
I don't know. Everyone's saying Mark Sanchez stinks. It wasn't his best game. I will say that. But let's also look at the fact that he threw for 307 yards. I mean, in fantasy terms.
It's against the Titans.
In fantasy terms, yeah, he's still a matchup play. But in fantasy terms, he's still a guy that's going to get you high volume. I'm not really worried about this situation. He's still a guy that if I had him in a league, I pair him with a quarterback or I'm rotating, but I don't let go of him. He's not Josh McCown where I pick him up and drop him.
Okay, that's fair, but I think what I was trying to get to is, do you devalue the wide receivers slightly?
No.
Really?
No, still go look at the targets and how much volume they got. The only issue is when they got down in the red zone, they dropped a clunker. I mean, the kicker had how many field goals inside the 40? I think he had like 5 or 6 field goals on the day. The ball was moving fine. They just didn't complete their red zone opportunities. So no, in that respect, I don't agree. I think they just didn't close out this weekend.
Okay, Delaney Walker goes 5 for 155. He has 98% of his fantasy points in 2 games this week, or this year. All right, real quick here before we go to break.
Yeah.
Let's touch on the Patriots beating up the Lions. Lions having another meltdown here. LeGarrette Blount, 12 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. You shouldn't have slept in, Jonas Gray. Which one of those running backs would you rather have rest of the season?
Neither. This is a Bill Belichick team. I don't want any running back from there at this point, unless it's Vereen.
I'm making you pick. Pick one.
Fine, Blunt. He's been there longer,
Yeah.
quote unquote.
And then one more thing from this game. Calvin Johnson, 4 for 58. What's wrong with Calvin Johnson? You got about 25 seconds.
Brandon Browner and safety help over the top.
No. I'm not buying that, Sky.
Well, you're going to have to buy it, and I'll even sell it to you dirt cheap. How about that?
Bolsheviks. Now, listen. If you're Mr. Caldwell, here's the plan. You throw it deep for Calvin. That's what you should do on every play because this team is melting down. All right, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we got lots more to get to. It's Monday. We're recapping Nick, Sky. This is Razzball Radio. This is the Fantasy Sports Network. Hey, welcome back. It's Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. The Thanksgiving week edition. Don't forget, set your lineups early this week, man, because you don't want to get burnt by going out Wednesday night, little pre-Thanksgiving festivities. You forget to set lineups because that'll mess you up. Because this is the last week before the playoffs, people. At least in most leagues.
Yep.
Okay, Packers narrowly get by the Vikings, 24-21. Vikings actually played pretty tough. Big game for Eddie Lacy, 25, 125 and a TD. I think the interesting thing here for me was that, Cobb goes 4 for 58, Nelson 8 for 68. You take away the touchdowns, and suddenly these guys are a lot less interesting. But obviously, you're starting them every week, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. I think everyone was a little too hyped for Green Bay. They were leaving the frozen tundra. I can't remember their splits, but they are insane in terms of points scored at home versus away. So they had that going against them. And the Vikings actually do have a decent secondary so far this year. So it was kind of a perfect world in which those guys were going to have a slump game. And I pay attention to this stuff because of all the DraftKings stuff. So,
I love that you pay attention to stuff.
I do.
You're our Sky. You're our Sky. No cheese curds. They stink on the road. Okay. Colts beat up the Jaguars. I think people thought it would be a bigger spread than this. I mean, it was really close in the first half, but 23-3 is the final score. Newsflash, Trent Richardson is still not good. And there's 3 guys I've been pumping for like 3 weeks. Isaiah Crowell, Latavius Murray, and, not for 3 weeks, but Boom Herron, who yesterday not only went 12 for 65 on the ground, also had 5 catches for 31 yards. He's the running back there now, isn't he?
He better be. I'll put it this way. They said that Trent Richardson wasn't starting because he was sick. They both got almost the same amount of touches. So the only thing that Trent Richardson is sick of is actually running the ball.
Oh, I thought you said he was going to be sick of hearing that the Colts give up a first-round pick for him.
Oh, he'll never get sick of hearing that, I'm sure.
All right. T.Y. Hilton has a monster game on only 4 catches. Blake Bortles for the Jags. Yeesh. Ugly. Here's the one takeaway for me from the Jags side of the ball. Denard Robinson, 14 for 25 on the ground, and Toby Gerhart, 4 for 31. Is there any chance that Gerhart kind of gets back into this and actually maybe is a guy you might want to pick up right now?
Uh, my general opinion of how the Jags offense is run, it's pretty clear that any team playing them defensively just kind of knows what's going to happen automatically. I think they were stacking the box when they saw Denard in there because they knew it was going to be a run. Toby had been mostly the pass catching back since coming back. I wouldn't read too far into this game. I think they stacked the box because of how they got run over the last week, and they knew that the Jags couldn't really throw on them. So I'm just kind of tossing this game aside if I'm a Denard owner.
Okay. Bengals go to Houston and beat the Texans 22-13. Somehow this Bengals team, which is, more up and down than a roller coaster, might back their way into the playoffs. Interesting for me, Jeremy Hill gets 18 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown. And Gio Bernard, also, he was in the mix. 17 carries, only 45 yards. I think we looked at this as a timeshare early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Jeremy Hill here is 1A and Gio is 1B, if for no other reason that in the red zone, Hill's going to get the targets. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think Gio will slowly kind of slide back to what he was last year, a bit more of a change of pace back, only this time he's not doing it with Benjarvis Green-Ellis, so there's less reason to give him that many carries. I think he'll start becoming more the third down pass catching back. He's much more electric in open field than he is trying to bang it between the tackles, so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it's tough banging things between the tackles. And Ryan Mallett, not very good, 21 for 45. So I wonder, let me ask you this. If you are the general manager of the Houston Texans, would you rather have Jadeveon Clowney or Blake Bortles going forward? Real football.
Real football, that team is working towards being a defensively stout team, except for their secondary right now. So I'd rather lean towards defense. That's the way they're building right now. So
Bears beat the Buccaneers 21-13. Matt Forte, big day, 23 for 89. 2 touchdowns on the ground, 5 receptions for 23 yards. So that was great. Not a very good day, again, for Jeffrey and Marshall, even though Jeffrey had the touchdown. Mike Evans, only 3 for 47. What happened? Vincent Jackson getting in the way. We're going to get to Odell Beckham Jr., who I keep calling ODB by mistake, but it should be OBJ.
I call him ODBJ.
Maybe it's ODB Jr.
Yeah.
Re-rank these rookie wide receivers for me.
All right.
Who you'd rather have, okay?
Yeah.
We've got Mike Evans.
Okay.
We've got, what's his name? Carolina. How am I spacing?
Benjamin.
Yeah, Kelvin Benjamin. We've got Matthews and OBJ. Which one would you re-rank them? All 4, real quick.
I would go Evans. I'd go Odell, and then I would go Matthews, and then I would go Benjamin.
Come on, Benjamin's the 4th one for you?
Benjamin, he runs stiff as a board to me. He's a very high volume guy that has more to do with his height and being on a bad team than anything else. He's been junk time hero lately. He's not really doing anything when the game matters. So
all right. So because he runs stiff as a board, just note Sky prefers his receivers to be flexible.
Very.
Okay. Seattle, 19. Cardinals 3. Russell Wilson, 17 for 22, 211 yards, touchdown, 10 carries, 73 yards. Holy Magoli. He's the 4th ranked quarterback now in fantasy. Where are you ranking him next year? Is he a top 5 quarterback for fantasy next year?
No, this has actually been a bad year for him. It's funny to say that, considering for fantasy purposes, everyone's really hyped out of the building for him. It's really been a bad year. He's been having to run a lot more because he doesn't have the targets outside like a Cam Newton has to throw to a 6-foot-plus wide receiver. He's dinking and dunking to guys like Doug Baldwin, who are fine as a wide receiver too, but this is just a messy passing team. And plus, they were just playing a very tough defense that plays a lot of man, so that's why he was able to sneak out for so much rushing yards yesterday. They need to help him, either a big tight end or a big wide receiver, before I'm going to buy in next year.
Hey, Michael Floyd, no catches again. It was Brown, and Carlson were the only non-running backs to get a catch.
Well, that's what happens when your quarterback is Drew Stanton. So I was surprised he didn't throw more picks than he did. But, I mean, that guy's a gunslinger. I figured John Brown was going to have a big game. I thought he'd actually go for 100 with a touchdown. But, He's still Drew Stanton. So
All right, we got to go to break. Nick Capozzi, Sky with no name. You can follow him at Sky_Razzball. You can follow me at Nick Capozzi on Twitter, NICKCAPOZZI. Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Welcome back, Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Okay, Sky, let's go quick here. A lot of games. Chargers narrowly defeat the Rams 27-24. Which is more real to you? Ryan Matthews, 12 carries for 105 yards, or Keenan Allen, 6 catches for 104 yards, both having a TD?
Matthews, easily. This team wants to win time of possession, and Keenan Allen could next week be Eddie Royal in that passing attack if they're clipping along well.
He gets the targets, though.
He gets high volume, but he's supposed to be a yak monster. He hasn't been except for the last few.
Yak monster.
That's his game. He's not going to be catching these inside the 10 very often.
I knew a girl in college who called the Yak Monster. She couldn't hold her liquor. 49ers 17, Washington 13. Ugly game.
Mm-hmm.
If you were Washington, can you go into next season with Kirk Cousins and RG3 as your quarterbacks and have any chance of being successful?
No, at all. No, there needs to be a switch up majorly from top down in that organization. It's a mess. I don't want anything to do with them for fantasy just because they're such a mess as an organization.
And St. Louis has their first round pick again next year.
Hilarious.
Unbelievable. Okay, Broncos 39, Dolphins 36. So Peyton, he did 28 for 35 and 4 touchdowns against the number 2 pass defense and number 2 defense in the NFL. Never bet against Peyton after he gets his ass handed to him as he did last week in St. Louis. Real interesting for me, though. One was DT's back. Hey, 3 touchdowns, thank goodness. C.J. Anderson, 27 carries, 167 yards, a touchdown, plus 4 catches for 28.
Yep.
He's the starting running back for the foreseeable future, right?
I call him Baby Bear from all 3 of the running backs because he's just right. He's got the size that Ronnie Hillman doesn't have, and he's got the moves that Monty Ball doesn't have. So yeah, he should be the starting running back for them moving forward.
Unbelievable. Who would have guessed that?
I liked him a lot last year, but then they stopped.
Oh, stop.
I did.
Stop.
I liked him a lot more than Monty Ball in comparison.
All right.
I also liked Moreno more than Monty Ball last year, so we'll put it that way.
Tannehill didn't do too bad. I mean, he threw a pick, but he also threw 3 touchdowns.
I was very surprised by this game script. I'm saying that out loud because I really thought Denver's defense would come out and just smack him around, and it never happened. So I was pleasantly surprised as a Tannehill supporter.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. All right, arguably the game of the weekend. Cowboys 31, Giants 28. So here's what you need to know. Tony Romo throws 4 touchdowns. That's all right.
Yeah.
DeMarco Murray goes over 100 yards again. That's all right. 2 touchdowns for Des Bryant. So all is right in Jerry Jones's world right now.
Yep.
Eli, 3 touchdowns. I didn't see that coming. I thought actually the wheels were going to come off there a little bit. But here was the story of the game. Odell Beckham Jr., 10 catches, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns, and what is being called, and this, come on, people, like one of the greatest catches of all time. Yeah, it was spectacular. But one of the greatest of all time? Come on, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry, were you talking? I've just been staring at the GIF over and over here. What were you doing? No. Hey, I'm sorry. The kid, that was amazing. We're gonna have to go check and see if he was bit by a radioactive spider. For him to stick his hand out and literally that football just to hit his hand and stay. That was nuts. I am calling it the catch. Capital T, capital C. That was insane.
Yeah, it was impressive. What is it with the Giants receivers? Like when we talk about the greatest catches, it always seems to be Giant receivers. Remember the one with the guy on his head and.
Well, as someone best put it on Twitter, they said, Eli Manning is a Hall of Fame quarterback, and then they posted both of these pictures of the helmet catch, and it's like, yeah, I wonder what's going on there. Yeah, Eli needs a little help. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, he needs a lot of help.
That was, yeah. No, I kind of assumed that the Giants would get theirs. I really thought we'd see a little bit more Rashad Jennings. I really thought they would try to play Dallas's game and wind down the clock because both teams went on. But yeah, game script flipped a little bit.
Yeah. So Odell Beckham on the year, he's only played 7 games because he was injured. 41 catches, 609 yards, 5 touchdowns. Prorated over a 16-game schedule.
Yep.
That's 93 catches, almost 1,400 yards, and 11 touchdowns.
Yep. And yet Eli will still have weeks where he'll decide to throw to Ruben Randall, and in which he throws 3 of his 5 picks. That's yeah, because Eli doesn't like good chemistry. He'd rather just chuck it around. No, the Odell is amazing. That's why I said he's only my number 2 behind Evans. Simply, it's a size thing in terms of red zone targets and whatnot. But they're both amazing athletes. So
I hear you. All right, tonight Baltimore heads to New Orleans. Who do you like in that game?
This is going to be a shootout in my mind. I think
so too.
I do think New Orleans is going to come out on top just because they're at home, but it's going to be close. I could easily see both teams scoring in the 30s, like the Denver-Miami game went. There's going to be tons of fantasy points. I think we're going to see Kenny Stills emerge in terms of touches.
I'm shot calling 3 touchdown game for Jimmy Graham tonight.
Ooh!
Watch him go like 3 for 22 yards.
I'm not backing you on that. I think it's going to be Stills getting his. I think Graham will have an okay game, but I think Stills is going to have a pretty big game tonight.
I think New Orleans is going back to their bread and butter because they have to, especially with Atlanta losing yesterday. I mean, they're 4-6. Man, you imagine like a 6 or 7 win team get into the playoffs? There'd be an uproar.
Seattle did that a couple of years back and beat New Orleans when they did it.
Yeah, but they had 7 wins, I think, right? I think there's been 2 7-9 teams. I think New Orleans, like 2 decades ago, got in at 7-9. But it could be a 6-win team. Crazy.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm looking at them, and they've also lost a lot of really close games so far this year that could have gone either way. So I don't think they're as bad as that their record suggests.
Sky,
but
I hate to cut you off, man. Monday, we never have time. But real quick, just tell me the team name. New York Jets, at the Bills, at Detroit. Who do you like? Real quick, just give me the team name.
I'm taking the Bills.
Yeah, I just worry about them not practicing this week. Practice? Okay, we got to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow with T-Hole. T-Hole Tuesday. Sky, thanks for joining us, brother. This has been Razzball Radio on Fantasy Sports Network. We'll see you tomorrow.